Lazy Dude 99. Lazy time and we're gonna do a review. Yes, we're gonna review. Let's talk about movies and comics too. Let's all Hello everyone and welcome to another Lazy Dude 99 review. So, Batman Hush. I have a unique history with Batman Hush. You see, my brother Chris, for one of his birthdays, got a couple of comic book issues, and one of them was from Batman Hush. That being the opera issue where Harley Quinn and Catwoman duke it out. I was always mesmerized at the art in it, and I was really interested in it, and I always wanted to see how the story ends, because that issue leaves on a cliffhanger. And so when I found Batman Hush, Volume 2, because I didn't know there was a Volume 1 at first, I realized that it was the same issues, and I decided to buy it. This being one of the very first trade paperbacks that I ever bought. I was stunned by the art. The certain elements that happened in the story blew me away, and I thought it was one of the greatest Batman graphic novels ever written. Of course, since I hadn't read any other graphic novels at the time, it was a pretty easy assumption. I eventually then bought the first volume and read the whole story together, and I was still interested. I still thought it was a great book. But, over the years, I have read a whole lot of Batman books now. So, here's the thing. How does Batman Hush hold up? Just a heads up, spoiler warning. I mean, the villain's name, who is Hush, isn't that much of a spoiler nowadays, but when people first read this, it kind of was. But I will be talking about every element of this book. The basic story starts out at Batman Hush as Batman is trying to stop Killer Croc from kidnapping this kid. However, he realizes that Killer Croc isn't smart enough to pull off an operation like this, and he realizes that someone might be manipulating his villains, who is intelligent. As the story continues, Bruce reunites with a childhood friend, Thomas Elliot, and his relationship with Catwoman becomes more and more serious, to the point where he actually reveals to her his secret identity. In the meantime, Batman's supervillains keep on coming at him in different ways that he's not used to, and he has to adapt to the situation and try to figure out who's behind it all. So let me just say that if you have read any Batman-related material that involve Hush after this, you know who Hush is. It's Thomas Elliot, his childhood friend. I actually quite like going into Bruce's childhood to show that he wasn't a lonely loner before his parents died, that he actually had friends. This does fall into the pit of, it's a little convenient that one of his childhood friends grows up to be a supervillain. However, the story tackles it well, and after we figure out who Hush is, it doesn't feel like that much of a leap in logic with the way they set things up. This book was written by Jeff Loeb and the art was done by Jim Lee. And I'm just going to put this out here. I hate Jeff Loeb. Now, before anyone leaves, I don't hate his writing. I think his writing on Batman is actually pretty solid. In fact, The Long Halloween is one of the greatest graphic novels ever written, and the sequel to it, Dark Victory, is also very entertaining. And he did a good job on some of the Superman Batman books. I hate Jeff Loeb because of what he's done in other mediums. For example, he was the one behind getting Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes canceled and replaced with Avengers Assemble, which sucks a lot. Jim Lee's art, though, what can I say? This is some of the greatest artwork you'll ever see in a comic book. I mean, when I visualize Bruce Wayne now in a comic book form, this is the picture I see. I don't see, if somebody else does a version of Bruce Wayne that looks a little different from this, I'm like, no, this is Bruce Wayne. This is Bruce Wayne. And I love how he has different stuff, like, for example, Metropolis is super bright. I mean, even at nighttime, it's lit up, and it's super bright and colorful, and everything, and Batman and Catwoman are just annoyed by it. I love that. And Gotham, of course, is more dark and stoic, and the backgrounds are gray, and I like that. And there's a lot of great looks of the characters, facial expressions, and the character costumes. If you guys don't remember, this was the issue that I believe that gave Catwoman her go-to costume of nowadays. The one where it looks more practical. It looks maybe not practical. It's still skin tight leather. Or I don't know if it's leather, but whatever. But, this costume is now the one that most people go to. They have different types of designs on this costume, but this is the one that people go to. Speaking of Batman and Catwoman, that's one of the best parts of this book. See, in this book, at the very beginning, Poison Ivy uses Catwoman to do her bidding and to steal this money that Killer Croc got from the ransom money. And then they eventually figure out that Catwoman was under Poison Ivy's control, and then they get together, and then they have this iconic comic book kiss. Just them kissing in the moonlight on a Gotham rooftop. I don't know what it is, but this kiss is drawn so well. I mean, this to me is a perfect... this to me is the best kiss in all of comic books. The only one that might top it is Superman and Lois Lane kissing on the moon in All-Star Superman. But anyway, their relationship unfolds nicely, and I like how none of them at any time say that they're dating now. They don't say, oh, we're dating, we're boyfriend, girlfriend. None of them say that, because that's not how Batman and Catwoman work. They realize they have feelings for each other, and they give in to those feelings, and they want to be with each other. They don't bog it down in all that relationship crap. I wouldn't say it crap. I want to be someone's boyfriend, a girl. But anyway, Jeff Loeb really has a good handle on, and I've always think he's had a good handle on the Batman-Catwoman relationship, and him revealing his identity to her doesn't feel like it's forced. It doesn't feel like, oh, he would not do that. They set it up nicely enough that he really shows that he cares about her and that he can trust her. Now, this story, being a mystery story, for mysteries, there are two reads. There's the one original read where you don't know what's going on, and if you do figure out what's going on, then either you're smart or it wasn't hidden well, whatever. And then there's your second read where you know everything that's happened, and you look to see if the mystery actually lines up, or whether or not certain things in the story were in there just to throw you off. For example, Thomas Elliot, this character that just gets introduced in the story, everyone, of course, is going to be suspicious of him. Because we have a villain that we don't know who he is, and a new character that just pops up. Everyone, of course, is going to say, oh, maybe it's this guy. This type of story can be handled poorly if done wrong. I'm looking at you, Court of Owls. We could see that guy was going to be a bad guy the whole way. However, I will say after rereading this story, there are some red flags. For example, in this story, Batman is chasing Catwoman when she's under mind control from Poison Ivy, and while he's almost about to grab her, something cuts his bat line, and he falls into this alley, injuring himself tremendously. And so he's taken to the Batcave, and he, in his subconscious, taps out in Morse code the name Thomas Elliot to work on him, because Tommy Elliot is a renowned brain surgeon. Which, of course, was part of Thomas Elliot's as Hush's plan, because he wanted to plant a chip in the back of Bruce Wayne's head so he could always know where he was, and to keep track of him, and to outsmart him. So he basically, because of this, got exactly what he wanted. But in the story, right after Bruce Wayne comes out of the hospital and he's fine, there's a scene with a man with the bandages and the trench coat, which is Hush, which is Thomas Elliot, being all mad and cutting out Bruce Wayne's photo from the newspaper, looking all mad. Why? Thomas Elliot got exactly what he wanted. He got Bruce Wayne to trust him, to call him. He got a chip in the back of Batman's head. He got everything he could have wanted. Why is he cutting out Bruce Wayne's picture in anger? He couldn't be cutting it out in happiness, like, aha, I'm going to beat him, because he's not like that. He's not insane. I don't get, see, that has no purpose to be there, other than, well, there you go. It's not Thomas Elliot, because Thomas Elliot, it doesn't make sense that way. And there's a lot of little red flags in this story that just push the suspicion off of Elliot because it wouldn't make sense if it's him. For example, here's another one. In the second issue, Batman and the Joker face off because Batman thinks Joker killed Thomas Elliot. He didn't, but I'll get to that in a sec. Then, after the fight, I'll talk about the fight in a second. I just want to talk about this. So then after the fight, Joker saying, I'm innocent, and then it goes up, and you see a man in the bandages and the trench coat, which is, the look of Hush, and he flips the coin, and he says, he is innocent. Get the joke? And it shows a coin to the camera, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's Two-Face! But it's not. Two-Face then goes to, Arkham to release the Joker, and he has still wearing the bandages, and he takes it off, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's Two-Face. But why was Two-Face wearing the Hush outfit? Why? There was nobody around to see him, and, as he says, if he was reinstated as a district attorney, who in Arkham would just let this guy with a bandaged head and a trench coat just walk up and say, yeah, let that guy out of the prison? What? You might say, well, it makes sense to have Two-Face under the bandages because he was working with Hush. But no, because after Thomas Elliot got rid of the scars on Two-Face and made it just look like Harvey Dent, he actually got rid of Two-Face. And he didn't realize that, so Two-Face is now just Harvey Dent, and Harvey Dent is helping Commissioner Gordon and Batman try to take down Hush. So there's absolutely no reason for Two-Face to be dressed up like Hush. The only reason that is there is to throw off the reader, but there's no story reason why that's there. There's no story reason why Two-Face is dressed up like Hush, and why Thomas Elliot cuts out Bruce Wayne's photo from the newspaper. That's just to throw us off, but it's not good setup. Speaking of good setup, this should have been Jason Todd. Hush should have been Jason Todd. Now, for those saying, no, he's Red Hood, yeah, but you gotta realize at the time, nobody wanted Jason Todd back. In fact, I don't think people really accepted Jason Todd being back in comics until the animated movie Under the Red Hood came out. Because nobody wanted Jason back. However, this story sets up Jason's return perfectly. I mean, we have someone who knows who Batman is, and knows all of his moves and all of his villains and how to manipulate them. He's smart. And even, okay, one thing that I'm like, oh, that should have been Jason Todd because of this scene. There's a scene where Batman is being watched by him, and Batman looks over to glance at the building, and the building says Robbins. That is set up to be Jason Todd, but it turns out, even though in the part of the story where Batman and Jason Todd, who turns out to just be Clayface, are fighting, that's actually a really intense part of the story when you first read it, because you're just like, holy crap. Because the reason I say that it was good setup is because you have Batman bringing up Jason Todd in conversation, but it's more about when he's thinking about the Joker and what he's going to do to the Joker. But in this story, to just have Jason Todd, if Jason Todd was Hush, it would have been such a great twist that I wouldn't have seen coming. Now, the thing is you say, well, did you suspect that it was Thomas Elliot? I'm like, no, but to be fair, I was a new reader at the time. So at the time, I didn't really suspect that if you introduced a new character, that odds are that they were going to be the villain. I didn't get that yet. And it's pretty obvious because Bruce keeps on having flashbacks to his relationship with Thomas Elliot. So, even after Elliot's dead, so you can all tell now, if I was reading it now, I could be able to tell, well, that's just set up for the villain's arc.
Go to part 2.